Good evening. It is Monday, August 16th, 2021. I'll call the regular city council meeting of the city of Columbia to order. Roll call.
Nemitz. Here. Wrestler.
Here.
Hoop. Holking.
Here.
Martins. Here. Riddle. Here. Garmer.
Here.
Cordy.
Here.
Could everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item D, proclamations, recognition, presentations. I don't have any. Does anybody else have any? Public input. We have a couple people that have signed in for the public comment portion. I'll just reiterate, for those of you who haven't been there before, you have to sign in with your name and address, any group you're affiliated with, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Each speaker will be recognized by myself, and the speaker should provide their name and address and group they're affiliated with, and you will come to the podium. There will not be an interactive type session, so you won't be able to ask us questions and answers during that time. If you would, after the meeting, would like to speak to myself or any of the council members, I'd be more than happy to do so after the meeting. But we'll try to stick to 3 minutes during your public comments. So the first person I have signed in is a gentleman named Larry Fine. Anybody by that? Okay. Pat McDermott? Okay.
No comments.
No comments? Okay.
Good job.
Thank you. All right. The next comments and announcements. Any aldermen have any comments or announcements to make? Okay. Department directors, anything you wish to discuss? Mr. Brimm?
Did you want me to address the census?
Yes, I was
Okay.
going to kind of hit on that a little bit as well.
No, if you want to go ahead and start that conversation, I can kind of follow up.
Okay. Hey, James, there's quite a bit of an echo. I don't know if. Okay, so the census was released just last week, and they have us Columbia as of the April 1st, 2020 census at 10,999. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at that. We are still right below Waterloo, but we gained on them. Waterloo is at 11,013, so we're sitting at 14 people below them. The overall county is at 34,962. It's showing Columbia as a 8.4% population change since April 2010 to July 2019, I guess, was the prior thing there. As far as demographics go, age and sex, 65 and over in Columbia, we're at 16.6%. Under 18 years of age, 25.9%, and under 5 at 8%. So it looks like we're getting younger as far as population goes here in Columbia. We're averaging 2.51 persons per household. And then the median household income of Columbia is $98,977. Waterloo's at $67,682, and overall the county is at $85,747. And the national average is $62,843, so we're quite a bit above the national average on that. Those are just kind of the key things that I had in mind, but Mr. Brimm's going to hit on other few items related to that.
Staff has had an opportunity to review the preliminary census data that was released. As Mayor Hill noted, the population in 2010 was 9,707 people. Some of you may not be aware that back in 2017, the City of Columbia actually commissioned a special census to review our population. That returned our official population to 10,868 people. Based off of the 10,999, that stands to reason that Columbia only added 131 people between September of 2017 and April of 2020. Mr. Dunakey, our Community Development Director, pulled our building reports from that period of time, September 17 through December 20. 83 building permits were issued for new homes in that period. Using the population that are the household size Mayor Hill cited of 2.51, that alone would be an additional population of 208 people. That is not accounting for apartments or condos, at least 12 new structures that have been constructed, or 5 annexations that were completed back in 2018. Mr. Dunakey and myself are currently looking to see if there's some sort of a verification or dispute process that we can engage in with the U.S. Census. It just stands to reason that we should have significantly more residents in Columbia counted than what's being indicated.
Thank you, Mr. Brimm.
Were there any questions on the census before I move on?
The reason we did it the last time was because, wasn't it for more tax money?
Right. A lot of the allocations are based on your, it's based per capita, per population.
What is there amount you have to get over to, it really makes it worthwhile?
The next number, I think, in all of our minds would be that 25,000 mark where we would be granted the home rule status, but.
So, I mean, does it make sense if you?
I mean, certainly, with the limited resource and the mandates that are being put forth by the state, any additional revenue that we would receive, whether it be MFT, income tax, certainly is beneficial to the city overall.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
So what Kevin had asked about there, and I wasn't sure if you got that. Last time, the mayor came up with a break-even proposal. If we went ahead and did the special census and we got 400 people or 300, and so the return per person was going to go ahead and come out to our benefit, which it ended up doing after so many people in that.
Certainly.
So that's what I was curious about when Kevin asked that question, if you knew or if you had an idea, or if you had time to look at it.
We have not explored the special census. We're hoping that because we are so close to the completion of Census 2020, that there is some sort of a verification process that's in place. I was able to find information on the 2010 appeal process. Unfortunately, the census website has not updated that for 2020 just as of yet.
Would a special census be as of today or as of 2020?
That's one thing that we're still trying to explore. We certainly hope that it doesn't come to that, simply because obviously there are significant costs incurred by any municipality choosing to embark on that. We're just optimistic that because we are so close to the release of the municipality level data, that there is some sort of an opportunity to comment or request clarification before that's stamped official and we wouldn't have to go through that special census process.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, the next item.
I've got a couple other things if I could, sir,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I wanted to provide the council with an update to the August 2nd council meeting. Mike Lindhorst of the Prairie DuPont Levy District attended that meeting and voiced concern regarding the impact of development in Columbia on the Prairie DuPont Levy District. Mr. Lindhorst explained to the council that the electricity for the Palmer Creek pump station is over $90,000 per year, and basically concluded that the Prairie DuPont Levy District was seeking help in generating additional revenue to offset that electric bill. Mayor Hill, Mr. Smith, and myself attended the Prairie DuPont Levy District meeting on August 4th. While we were there, board members voiced additional concerns, including perceived defects in our stormwater retention, detention designs, and future developments planned in Columbia. The mayor, Chris, and myself, we explained how the improvement plan process, how the development process works, including those pertaining to stormwater retention, that all plans that are submitted as part of the improvement plans have to be stamped by a licensed engineer. One of the concerns that I raised, kind of as I don't want to say a counter argument, but just kind of food for thought for the board, I asked if Prairie DuPont is the only levy district in our area out of the 5 that receive water from areas outside of their district boundaries. If not, what agreements are in place between those other entities and the municipalities or other entities discharging those waters that are having a perceived adverse impact? They weren't aware of any. With regards to their request for additional revenue for offsetting the perceived impact Columbia is having on the district's electric bill, I kind of offered a couple of points to that. In 2008, the Illinois State Legislature passed the Illinois Flood Prevention District Act of 2008, which led to the creation of the Southwestern Illinois Flood Prevention District Council, comprised of the flood prevention districts of Monroe, Madison, and St. Clair counties. In that legislation, the state also authorized the imposition, if you will, of a 0.25% sales tax to fund that initiative. To date, that entity has generated $141.6 million. After reviewing all of the operating budgets of the Southwestern Illinois Flood Prevention District Council, I was able to find that $31.7 million have been refunded as surplus to the 3 county flood prevention districts. We asked the board, any of those funds, have they funneled down to the individual district levels? They stated they have not, and they were not aware of that fund opportunity. Furthermore, I pointed out that the city of Columbia alone has generated over $2 million through that 0.25% sales tax for flood prevention purposes. I went a little bit deeper and reviewed the Prairie DuPont Levy District's property tax levy from 2004 to present. Monroe County has contributed approximately 9.6% of the total property tax generated for the Prairie DuPont Levy District. I think it only stands to reason that we asked, can it be somehow quantified that the city of Columbia / Monroe County is contributing more than 9.6% of the water received by the district? Didn't really get a clear answer on that side. Finally, with regards to the property tax levy, and this is one area where I actually have to give St. Clair County credit on how they break out their property tax extensions. They very clearly demonstrate how much property tax is being extended through just the regular levy, and then they do show the amount that's being lost, if you will, by each individual taxing district through the TIF process. Having some familiarity with the Prairie DuPont Levy District and their boundaries, it stands to reason that the Village of Dupo has the only TIF districts that impact their Prairie DuPont Levy District, which they confirmed. I asked if they were aware that they've lost over $1 million through that TIF district from their coffers. They knew it was somewhere $30,000 a year, what have you, but they didn't know specifically. I then asked if the Village of Dupo was imposing those same stormwater retention requirements as Columbia is on their businesses, specifically those developing in their TIF district. If you look at the Dupo TIF districts, you've got the Dollar General on Main Street, you've got the other developments along Main Street in that adjacent area, but more importantly, you have kind of the warehouse / light industrial uses that are visible from 255. It used to be PRI, DSI, Kuna Foods, kind of back in that area is where I'm talking about. Bob, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they really seem to indicate that they didn't believe that Dupo was in fact enforcing any sort of stormwater retention or detention requirements on their developments. I asked if there were any similar conversations. You know, I appreciate Mr. Lindhorst, his willingness to approach the city council. However, have any similar conversations been held with the Prairie DuPont Levy District and the Village of Dupo? Expectedly, they countered that the Village of Dupo does contribute property taxes to the Prairie DuPont Levy District. However, I reminded them that TIF, they are only getting the pre-development levels of funding from those businesses. They are not getting the full lion's share, if you will, from those developments that have taken place under Dupo's TIF district. I then pointed out they have lost over $1 million through the TIF district, and they are being directly impacted by those developments that I mentioned without any additional funding to offset that impact. I then asked, or I should say, I then reminded, if you will, the Prairie DuPont Levy District that capital projects undertaken by a taxing district as a result of TIF development are expenses that are eligible for reimbursement from the TIF funds. They weren't aware of that, but they would look into it. That kind of wraps up just kind of a summary on the Prairie DuPont Levy District side. I didn't know if the council had any specific questions on that before I move on to the next item. All right. Again, at the August 2nd meeting, we did have 2 representatives from Sugarloaf Township attend the council meeting and voiced similar concerns regarding Columbia's annexation activities. Mr. Smith reached out to Mr. Roy while he was sitting here. The Township Highway Commissioner provided his business card and asked, hey, following up to my comments, if you guys would like, we'll plan to sit down and kind of talk about working on some sort of a way to address the concerns. Other than a phone call on August 13th to Mr. Smith from the Highway Commissioner informing us there was a tree down on the road that we just annexed, there has been no further communication with Sugarloaf Township. I'd just like to kind of reiterate publicly that Columbia City staff, we do stand ready to meet with township officials to discuss how we can reach a mutually beneficial agreement. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Next item on the agenda is item I, the consent agenda. Andrew?
There are 6 items on the consent agenda tonight. The first item is a motion to approve minutes of the August 2nd, 2021 regular city council meeting. Please note from what was sent out, there was a sentence incorrectly identifying Doug B's position during business prior to public input, so that was removed for the final version. The second item is a motion to approve closed session minutes of the August 2nd, 2021 regular city council meeting. The third item is a motion to approve payment of vouchers for the period of July 30th, 2021 through August 12th, 2021 in the amount of $720,436.50. The fourth item is a motion to approve special event permit for Veterans Honor Queue, which is November 4th through the 6th, 2021. The fifth item is a resolution number 2021-17 to include compensation directed into a retirement health savings plan as IMRF earnings. And the sixth and final item is a resolution number 2021-18 relating to a retirement healthcare funding plan.
Alderman, are there any items I-1 through I-6 that you wish to pull from the consent agenda? Yes, Alderman Nemitz?
Mayor, not to pull, and I know there was a staff report on items 5 and 6, but I just didn't recall exactly which group that was for and that we were going to go ahead and do that.
That was part of the collective bargaining agreement negotiated with the Fraternal Order of Police, representing our sworn patrol officers, that was approved back in 2019.
2018. Okay, and only for that group.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Alderman Garner?
Yeah, not to pull on anything off the list, but I had a question about number 3 for the administrator. I know that's a big bill, but those were budgeted, correct?
Correct. I think kind of the larger expenditures that were noted on the agenda item report, we had a payment of $198,613.84 to Boxmeyer Construction. That was for the Old Bluff DD Road project. A check to Clark Equipment on the amount of $30,990 for the purchase of a water department truck, and a check to VACCON in the amount of $66,483 for a sewer department truck. And finally, a check for $72,631.38 to Don Anderson Company for motor fuel tax supplies. And to answer your question, long story short, yes, those were budgeted expenditures.
Thanks, Doug.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda? I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. Can I get a motion? Alderman Holcamp,
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Garmer, roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins,
Yes.
Riddle, Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is item unfinished business, J1. It's ordinance number 3584, authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Landmark Infrastructure Holding Company, LLC. Mr. Brimm?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As discussed with the City Council on August 2nd, Cunningham Vogelrose PC, representing the city, solicited proposals from various entities for the lease rights for Tower 3, located on city property on Brimser Road. In lieu of the monthly lease payments that the city is currently receiving, Landmark has proposed to buy the lease rights from the city for a lump sum payment of $815,314. It's important to note, however, that amount is prorated, so the actual amount that the city plans to receive is just over $800,000. These rights are assigned for a period of 50 years. As discussed, with the nature of telecommunications, how they are changing, switching from the traditional towers to more of the small cell model of the 5G, I think it stands to reason that the usefulness of towers of this nature is questionable. As such, the city, it's recommended that the city proceed with the assignment of these rights just to maximize our return at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Brimm. Any questions on ordinance number 3584? Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Corey,
Second.
Alderman Nemitz. Roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Holtcamp,
Yes.
Martins. Yes. Riddle. Yes. Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Next item is item J2, motion to approve selection of Shockey Consulting for comprehensive planning and GIS services. Mr. Dunakey?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We just wanted to give you the opportunity to go ahead and take a look at the proposals that were submitted for the planning consultant and just kind of go over our review of the proposals real quick and the recommendation. After receiving proposals from 3 firms, a committee, staff committee made up of myself, the city administrator, Mr. Brimm, Mr. Smith, city engineer, and Sue Spargo, assistant to the city administrator, did score the proposals, and the top scoring firm was Shockey Consulting, who has offices in the Kansas City area as well as Kirkwood, Missouri. And we are recommending that they be hired as both the planning services and GIS consultants for the comprehensive plan based on their experience with mapping, as well as the fact that they have already developed a fiscal impact model, which was part of the GIS scope of services to develop. So the fact that they already have that will save tremendous staff time working with their existing GIS consultant, Horner and Schifrin. So the staff recommendation, which was endorsed unanimously by Plan Commission on August 10th, is to hire Shockey Consulting as our planning and GIS services for the comprehensive plan. And we would ask for a motion as such this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Dunakey? Any questions? Mr. Garmer?
Just curious where they fell in the bid process as far as amount that they requested.
They did not. They were all required to submit a proposal for $40,000 and tell us what you can get us for $40,000.
Wow. And then after they're done doing their piece, are we allowed to go back to them for any future needs, or is that up?
As long as, if there's extra budget, and professional services do not go through bid processes, we can extend a contract to them subject to the council's approval. If they would like to, if council would like to keep them on, for example, to help with the zoning code after we get done with the comprehensive plan, for example, that would be up to the council's discretion to extend that contract offer.
Great.
Alderman Nemitz?
Mayor, the impact was, I'll address this to Scott, though. The impact was that was the final section that you included on the information that we received, right? That they had developed that relationship in order to do the, what was it called? What did they call it? Is that what you're referring to?
The fiscal impact model was one of the points leading to them.
The term for it, wasn't it, didn't they have it labeled, or was I reading into the wrong section? Let me see if I can find it again. What they spoke of with Ameren, was that the?
Oh, I believe the proposal with Ameren was just for the market study.
The next site.
Yeah, that was just for a market study.
And it's,
What-
is that included then?
That wasn't part of the same proposal. That's a different.
I know it
That's
wasn't
just-
spec, that's separate.
Yeah, the
That's totally
market
separate.
study is being completed as well.
Okay.
Correct. But that's not being done by Shockey Consultants. That wasn't put out for bid. Those are from people that we've had contact us who do those sorts of services, and we requested them to go ahead and provide us the cost, the proposal for them so that, and as I've met with them, I've kept them, and and we went back to them and said, hey, you guys told us you'd do a market study for 10,000. Is that still a good offer?
Okay, so that the final page 23, Shockey for the GIS mapping, 30,000, that was the final, that was the end of the Shockey.
Yeah,
that was the end
that's
of the
correct.
Shockey proposal.
That
Okay.
is correct. So their proposal for GIS services as well as planning services is a total of 78,000. Whereas if we would have gone with our GIS consultant and another planning consultant, it would have been 80,000. So this saves us a couple $1,000s as well because we're saving more than that because they've already developed a fiscal impact model for our use because the other GIS consultant who proposed would have been building their own, which would have been taking a lot of our time as staff to help them develop the backside of it that does with the model in it.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions for Mr. Dunakey? No? Can we get a motion to approve a selection of Shockey Consulting for the comprehensive planning and GIS services? Motion. Alderman Martins? Alderman Holdcamp? Roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes,
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hook,
Yes.
Holtcamp,
Yes.
Martins,
Yes.
Riddle, Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is new business. Discussion of the leaf and limb program. Mr. Smith?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I just want to have a discussion on the leaf and limb program. Some of you guys are new to this. I mean, you may have done it as residents, but we haven't bid this thing out. It's been like 5 years. We did a 3-year program with 2-year extension for both the vendors. So now we're at the point where we need to take a look at it, see if there are things that we need to tweak, change, address. And I kind of have an idea of my thoughts, but I also wanted to get everybody else's thoughts. First, for the LEAF program, it's basically an 8-week program that goes from mid-October to mid-December. Actually, we advertise 7 weeks, use the 8th to pick up, but after 3 or 4 years of this, the residents are catching on that, that we're doing this for 8 weeks. But that's the way it was set up. Then probably 3 or 4 years ago, we integrated these 2 programs with our GIS system, in which the contractors, when they're out there, they can hit on a particular address point. It comes up. They say they picked up or not. They can say if there was an obstruction, say a car in front of it. They can take a picture, attach it to that parcel. So if we get phone calls, then the clerk's office can take a look at it and explain why something wasn't picked up or was. Send them an email showing them the vehicle and things of that nature, if necessary. It also helps the clerk's office when we get phone calls in where they can actually see where the contractor is, right? They can see what the last pickup is. And if someone wants to call in and throw out their address if they haven't had a pickup, which a lot of people still do, they can put a work order on that address, and it shows up as a bright yellow square. And so once a contractor gets there, they're supposed to click on it and show they've resolved the pickup. And it's helped us out a lot with phone calls and be able to share information, not have to call the contractor with a list of addresses. We can communicate with, as long as the internet or the web service doesn't go down, which has happened before. But it's really simplified the process and brought, I think, a level of accountability to the program. As far as the LEAF goes, I mean, we're not really looking to we're ready. We want to bid this thing out by the end of the month. For the mid-October to December period. We're looking at maybe doing a 2-year contract with the idea of extending 1 additional year. Last time we went with 3 and 2, and that's really a big stretch. I know the contractors come year 4 and 5 didn't want to turn it down, but they were stretched because, gas changes, prices change. There's a lot, the town grows. We got more limbs, we got more leaves. I mean, it's something, live and learn, and I think that might have been a little aggressive to extend it out that far. So we're looking at doing maybe a 2-year on the LEAF with a possible mutual extension of 1 additional year if we want to. And again, I don't know if anybody had any questions about the LEAF program or any thoughts or tweaks or changes.
But it's, you start in the middle of October. It seems like that's kind of early. I mean, there's really not that much coming down. And is there a way to just go till the end of October and you run it into December? Because half the time we're adding an extra week on at the end because there's
Well, what we've
ton of
done,
leaves at the end.
well, I've been a part of 6 of them, and I think the last 2 years we did, instead of starting mid-October, pushed it by default to the last week of October and stretched accordingly into December. I will say one thing that happened last year that was kind of out of our control. About 4 weeks in, every single leaf on every tree fell at once, which normally does not do that. It put us in a pickle. But I don't know how you control Mother Nature. Normally there's a logical falling of trees based on the types, you know. We would get a lot of questions sometimes because the oak leaves don't fall. And so those people were upset that, you know, in the spring, you know, but last year they did.
They did.
You know, a lot. So, I mean, it's one of those things that we do kind of try to tweak that the best we can. If you could try to see what's actually going on with Mother Nature. So we have moved it back. Probably the last 2 of the last 3 years, I think, got started a little bit late just because they didn't start to drop right away.
What would be the savings for the Public Works to do the limb pickup compared to outsourcing it?
Well, we can go to limbs. We can go to
Oh, okay.
limbs. I was just starting with the leaves.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're right. If we go to limbs, what we were thinking about, possibly having as a trial run, DOPW pick it up for this 2 weeks. And instead of just picking up the limbs, you know, if you looked at the list that we have, there's a lot of restrictions on the program. You know, no shrubs, no honeysuckle. You know, when we get contaminated piles all the time, they end up sitting, and we end up going back and picking them up anyhow. But we thought maybe, you know, could this be a time that we do a test run to see if there is a demand for these other things besides just limbs? Because the way we pick up things is different than the way it's spec'd in the limb pickup. The limb pickup means you got to pick it up and run it through your chipper. And so honeysuckle sometimes can get caught on wheels, or you can't throw shrubs in there. You know, we just come in and pick things up, throw it in the dump truck and haul it off, you know. You know, is there a value to maybe analyze if there is a need out there for these alternative services? Because again, on the GIS, we could track if we picked up shrubs or we picked up this. And at the end of that 2-week period, we can see, because I've received phone calls. I know Doug and I have had a conversation on it. I've had a conversation with other aldermen over the years about that. And it's just a thought, throwing it out there. I think whenever we did do the pickup in the spring, I think the current contract was maybe $5,000 for the vendor. It may have taken us close to $8,000, but I think we probably used some bigger equipment like the end loader that we didn't need to do. But again, this is the first time we were doing it, just to see what the breadth of the project or the program was. So we probably could have toned down some of the, but we own these vehicles anyhow. But if we probably could have toned down to smaller vehicles, and that would have been closer. Plus, I think both the vendors were saying that, you know, the money that they were doing in year 5 just wasn't making it work, you know. So there is an uptick, but I think our call volume of complaints went to next to zero. You know, we keep a list of complaints, and it was, I think, partly because we just picked up everything that was out there, you know, quite frankly. But it's just an idea to throw it out there to see if you guys have any interest on maybe seeing if there are expanded services that we could do for the residents, because some of them don't have any place for things to go. You know, we're telling them it's code, you got to clean this stuff up, but then you may not have an option of where to take it. I get some of the landscape waste, you could probably buy the bags and throw them in there, but then when you start getting to some big shrubs and things of that nature, people just don't have a place to go, and we've had piles of that. So it's just a thought, throwing out there. Otherwise, we bid it out, and it's usually the first 2 weeks of October is when we run the limb thing program.
Alderman Nemeth?
Chris, on the disposal of some of that stuff, though, I don't know what extra costs would be involved. If you have ash wood that's infested, if you have the honeysuckle or other vines that do tear up the machinery, do we have a plan, or are there restrictions that we need to follow, guidelines as far as disposal of those types of materials? Because it isn't just wood. You'll get anything in there, and
Well, I mean, the
Mulch it all up. you
yeah, I
can
mean,
chip it all up
we haven't chipped the honeysuckle yet. We just picked it up. It's sitting in a pile.
And separate it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wondered, because I know some of that stuff is not really desirable depending on what we do with it.
You know, we try our best to educate what you can and can't do, but it gets tough.
Sure.
And, you know, when we do spend a lot of time having debates, you know, obviously it was set up for pruning, but then you get this debate, is it really pruning or is it tree topping? Some's the eye of the beholder. And then sometimes, you know, you can have some areas of really highly concentrated trees like in Wilson Hills and over in West Park where people just load it up, and it takes, running through a chipper, it could take half a day, you know, and you've already chewed up, you know, the vendor's already chewed up, now they're already behind, you know, type of thing. So it just over the years, there's been calls, concerns, and it just, you know, is this the time that maybe since we're at a reboot, do we do a test run and see if there is that demand? Or do we just say, leave it status quo and move on and deal with the piles as best we can and try to educate the best we can? I mean, it's a really good service for the community,
It is.
you know. It's a
Chris,
highly-
question.
Yeah.
If you could guesstimate like what percentage, and I know this is hard, right, is other versus leaf versus limb pickup? What is the other percentage?
I'd have to ask the guys. I mean, I haven't been out there. I mean, I know probably every year I'm probably drug out to at least 20 to 30 piles in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, and that has a cost to it too.
Right.
You know, and we end up picking them up anyhow, usually.
Have we thought about a place where the citizens could bring it and dump it?
I would love to have a place to supplement the program because, again, people do work in their yards more than the 8 weeks
Yep.
of leaves and the 3 weeks of limbs. I mean, people are doing things year round. Having a place to supplement the program or give options to people who would want to, I mean, we just haven't settled on a place to try to do that yet.
Right.
Man,
But a lot of other communities do. You know, some people do work and they don't want it sitting in their yard for a week or two. They want to finish the thing. They'll load it up and take it somewhere if they have someplace reasonable to take it.
Yep.
But we just haven't settled on a place to try to do that. Talked about it for a couple of years now, but just haven't found a spot.
I'd be curious to see what that percentage of other is versus, you know, what cost you guesstimate it would be for additional.
Just to kind of put it in perspective, though, I think this would be something that would be considered a Cadillac service that the city provides. Kind of as a reminder, you know, I know Mr. Smith kind of touched on it. We do have, you know, through reliable sanitation, the weekly yard waste pickup, where it's just a brown paper bag with the $1 sticker on it. But to kind of summarize what Chris was getting at, I think it would be staff's recommendation that DOPW continue the limb pickup, at least for the foreseeable future, but we do go ahead and proceed with bidding out the leaf pickup side.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Smith. This time I'll entertain a motion. to go into
Mr. Mayor, if I could, sir, I apologize. I do have one thing just under new business, just to
Okay.
make the council aware of. Mr. Bruckert has been in conversations with Mr. Scoggins, who is the attorney for Cahokia Heights. Council may recall that the City of Columbia and the former Cahokia Commonfields Water District comprise the Metro East Municipal Joint Action Water Agency, MEMJAWA. With the dissolution of the Cahokia Commonfields Water District, we will need to pass an ordinance at our next meeting recognizing the entity of Cahokia Heights as the successor agency to the Commonfields Water District. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2 C11 pending our probable litigation. Get a motion? Alderman Martins? Alderman Riddle? Roll call?
Nemitz,
yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hook,
Yes.
Holcamp,
Yes.
Martins, Riddle,
Yes.
Garmer,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
This time, I'll call the regular city council meeting back to order. Can we get a roll call?
Nemitz,
Here.
Wrestler,
Here.
Hoop. Here. Holtcamp,
Here.
Martins. Here. Riddle. Garmer,
Here.
Corey. Here.
Okay. Next on the agenda is M, announcements. I just want to thank all the guys at Public Works for their job after Thursday's storms with the cleanup they did. I know we had quite a bit of some wind that blew through Columbia, and there was tree limbs and signs and things like that all over the roadway. So I want to thank them for their job on the rapid cleanup. I texted Chris Smith on Friday morning, asked him to run a street cleaner down Main Street because there was limbs and debris everywhere, and it was done within a couple hours. So they did a great job with that. Also, I just want to announce for everybody, Columbia Days is this weekend. I know the Turners have booked some great bands for Friday and Saturday night, so hopefully we have a good turnout for that, and as well as the parade. And then other item is the first meeting in September will be on Tuesday, September 7th, instead of Monday, the 6th, due to the Labor Day holiday. So I just want to announce that as well, so. Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn? Alderman Hook, Alderman Martins, roll call.
Nemitz,
Yes.
Wrestler,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Holtcamp. Martins.
Yes.
Riddle. Garmer.
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Thank you. Close.